A land of freedom and promise, said by Ben Flores, an illegal immigrant who truly believed in those words. The issue of immigration is losing its humanity from my perspective. These are human beings that have families and have made many contributions to the United States. Immigrants have been coming into California, especially over the last 30 years, because in the 1980s California had a good economic stance, while other parts of America do not, for several reasons. In current time today in the political world, immigration is a very hot topic right now, and is attracting a lot of opinions, news media, professional commentaries, and writers. But I am simply a 12-year-old boy who has a story to tell that involves the triumph and tragedy of one immigrated family and what they did to contribute to the United States. A small part of history and the vast contents of immigration. Jose Maria Patino and his wife Manuela Patino were owners of a grocery store in Jalisco, Mexico during the early 1900s. They had 3 children. The oldest child was named Maria, who was followed by her brother named Manuel, and the youngest child was named Teresa. They were a middle-class family, and life was good for them until troubles followed. In 1910, the Mexican Revolutionary War broke out, and Manuela and Jose Patino lost their grocery store, and with it, a middle-class lifestyle. Soon after the grocery store died, Jose died, and Manuela had to care for her children alone while working as a domestic. But soon she died of skin cancer, and with the end of Manuela, the 3 children had to go to an orphanage. Maria was 13, and Manuel was 9, and Teresa was 7. But as the Mexican Revolutionary War still raged on with Pancho Villa, a soldier named Ben Flores defected from the war to be with Maria, who left the orphanage at 16. Ben then said to Maria that he wanted to go to America to start fresh, and I quote him from saying this, "A land of freedom and promise." They migrated into the state of Arizona looking for work as they slept on street curbs at night until they met a wealthy woman attorney named Mabel Willebrandt, who in the 1920s was the first woman attorney with the title of Assistant Attorney General of the United States. Once Ben and Maria met her, she took them to her ranch in Coachella Valley in California and hired Maria to be a domestic and Ben to be a ranch laborer. And since Mabel was familiar with law, she was able to sponsor Ben and Maria and make them legal immigrants. Later in her life, Maria would say, "The woman who flew the planes would come by." It was none other than Amelia Earhart, who was a pioneer woman of aviators and good friends with Mabel. In Mexico, Manuel left the orphanage at age 17 and looked for work until he became a police officer. He discovered that music was his passion, though, and not being a police officer, he became a trumpet player in a local band. And while traveling with his band, he met Mercedes Salgado, whom he married and started a family with. Back in America, Ben Flores died, and leaving Maria alone in America, and with Ben's death, Maria asked if Mabel could sponsor her family in Mexico. Mabel welcomed the idea, and Manuel, Mercedes, and their 5 children came to America legally from Guaymas, Mexico. Among the children was 2-month-old Mona Patino, and traveling in 1943 during World War II, many soldiers were on the train as well. 2-month-old Mona was a moving sight to the soldiers on the train, and having told their own children, they asked Manuel if they might hold the baby Mona. In goodwill, Manuel agreed, and the soldiers lovingly took turns holding baby Mona. The new family from Mexico reunited with Maria and worked on Mabel's ranch happily. Manuel and Mercedes Patino welcomed 4 more children through the years and eventually left Mabel's ranch to work in agricultural industries of producing dates. The Coachella Valley is the leading producer of dates in the United States today, and Manuel, Mercedes, and Maria were all pioneers in the field. Harvester dates are still celebrated today at the Riverside County Fair and National Date Festival. Manuel and Mercedes then built their own home, a modest 2-bedroom on the street over from where Maria built her tiny 1-bedroom home in Coachella Valley, California. The oldest child of Manuel and Mercedes came to Riverside and became one of the leading activists in Latino affairs. She was especially a voice for poor children in 1970s and the 1980s. Trini Garcia was a leading force in creating the Head Start program in Riverside County. However, tragically, she died at the age of 55, though her work here with Riverside's children still lives on. There are other children like Henry. He was a pastor, and Nacho Rao and Louis all served in Vietnam. Joe owned a glass company, and George was an county investigator for abused children. Mona worked for the city of Riverside, and the many descendants of Manuel and Mercedes contributed to society today in the fields of education, law enforcement, and the arts. Now what you are about to see is an interview with Mercedes Salgado, who is now in her 90s and only speaks Spanish.
¿Se sentía bienvenida a los Estados Unidos?
Pues no muy bien porque dejaba a mi familia allá.
pero se sentía bien aquí que la aceptaron.
Sí.
Sí. ¿Y cómo se sentía aquí en los Estados Unidos? ¿Bien?
Pues poquito bien.
¿Cómo se sentía cuando trabajaba en el FI?